What up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Starting the day out a little bit different here. I've been trying to start running because, you know, everything's kind of on lockdown. The gym's been closed for almost a year and a half now, like 16 months, I guess. And I've been putting on a little bit of weight. So it's been hurting my knees, hurting my ankles, hurting my shins, but you got to get out there and just, you know, do it, or else you're not going to get better at it. And the hardest part of doing anything is starting. So if you got a project in your garage that you need to start, just get out there, start tinkering, and once you're out there, you're gonna love it. Okay, this is getting hard because I'm fat. I'll see you in a bit. 3.0 kilometers. So I'm trying to do a marathon within the whole month. This is my weight currently, 192.2. That was in the morning. We're up to 14.9 kilometers. And I believe a marathon's like 41 or something like that. The rest of the month, we're gonna have to hustle. As you can see, these big days right here were the days that I was working, so it's hard to get in a run, but that's no excuse. Let's get it done. I know this isn't normally how you start out an automotive YouTube channel, but I hope you guys like seeing me progress as a human being, a business owner, and a YouTube channel at the same time. So I'll see you guys in the garage. Okay, welcome back to the channel, guys. Admittedly, we got a little distracted yesterday with that go-kart, but it was for the greater good. So today we're gonna end up pulling this engine out. I need it for a couple of reasons. One, this engine, I'm not gonna use it, we're gonna put it on a stand, but I should be able to attach it to Virginia's transmission, put it in her car for now, and we can start building the turbo kit on that car. And then I need the transmission out of this because it's going back to James Hatfield, the same person that built our other transmission back here. And we're gonna get some billet goodies put in it because if we're putting a forged engine in this and running more boost, we're definitely gonna destroy like the 34 element sprag in that one. So we'll get our transmission built with some better goodies inside of it, some billet parts. And then Dan at DD Speed Shop got me this grinder. He was sick and tired of me using this grinder over here. My little Mastercraft one that has been doing me well for a really, really long time. But he's like, you got a $2,500 welder, this bandsaw, and you're using a $20 Mastercraft grinder? And so he sent me one. And then he sent me a friend request on the app too. So still waiting for that date, Dan. But this is gonna be perfect to cut this piece off. We need to get this out to like pull the motor out, and we're gonna take the front bumper off. That's enough talking, Kyle. You guys know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let's get into it. And there we go, bumpers off, brackets off. We're gonna use our custom AN wrench here. This is some wrench with some tape on it. And we're gonna get this big, oh my God, it doesn't fit? That's a big fitting, because that's like, I don't know, 5 inches at least. Maybe this, any size wrench. There it is. I'm just gonna drain the coolant out of it, because we're gonna probably relocate the radiator a little bit. Yep, any second now. Come on, baby. And yes, there was coolant in it because it froze over the winter time. Maybe if we tap. Now if you see anything on this car that's a little bit like shoddy or ratty or half-assed, it's probably because it is. But if you guys remember last year we got this car and it was like, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks that we built it. It was just a roller. It had no like electronics to the engine, no anything like that. And we put the engine in, built the turbo kit, did the electronics, did the cooling system, and made it go 860s in like 8 weeks or something like that. So radiator can come out now, just one more bolt. The fan was bolted in. Like I love Mishimoto and I love what they do and I love that they make a good product, but I think these little fans here, they don't power like as much as for what I need, so we're gonna have to get a bigger fan or better shrouding, but I think we're gonna try and replace the fan in this thing and get something that moves a ton of air. Just because we're laying the radiator flat and it's getting like no road flow to it. And then this has to be cut off because this is just the thing we welded for this cooler for the 8 turbos, and then this has to be cut off as well. there you go. I think everything is disconnected here. I just did the oil lines, the coolant lines, that's all off. Our wiring harness is neatly pinned on the firewall, except our harness does not look that great. But it does come off, so you can just throw it on the bench over here. Yeah, so I got the jacket up now so I can get at the transmission to empty the fluid there, pull the drive shaft, and we can pull the engine and trans as one unit. I know you pooping right now, and I actually have to go in for a little poop, so I'll be right back. Man, I'd just be standing around admiring the parts we collected on this channel. That's like 4 good LS heads, plus another set on here, plus the whole engine. Brian Tooley intake manifold, like 2 more blocks over here. We've accumulated some stuff. Now I did crawl my ass under there. I put a hoodie on so I wouldn't get like my arms all dirty, but all the transmission stuff's unhooked. I just have to undo the 8 motor plate bolts because I have a motor plate and a mid plate. For those of you who don't know, the motor plate and the mid plate actually get rid of the engine mount, so I don't actually run engine mounts anymore. I have, like I said, motor plate and mid plate to hold it up. So undo those 8 bolts and it should just come up and out. So I have to hook the engine crane up before I undo those plates, and it should just come out as one unit. As I was assembling the engine stand, Nick actually messaged me with some great news. Nick is like the main owner of Black Sheep Industries. I came in as like a secondary partner, and I own a portion of it. But have you ever found yourself in a turbo build and you're like, hey, I got this turbocharger, what am I gonna do for a wastegate? Well, let me tell you something. We actually make wastegates at Black Sheep Industries Inc. This is our 45mm wastegate, and we just got our 60mm wastegates back in stock. So we were waiting on shipping with this whole like pandemic thing. Shipping for everything has been super slow. So the 60mm and the 45mm are gonna be back in stock. And while you're on the website getting your Black Sheep Industries wastegates, you can contact us here also on True North Turbos if you're looking for a turbocharger. We have everything from 72 all the way up to 88mm and S400 frames, and we're working our way down from that into S300s, DT35s, stuff like that. But our main focus was the V8 LS crowd because that's kind of what our channel is based around. Just for more balls out. I'm not a fan of taking engines in and out all the time. It's just, you know, it's kind of what you do when you have a race car. Oh boy, this one's gonna be tough to get at. There's so much stuff in here. Come on, DeWalt Impact, don't make me look like a fool on the internet for buying DeWalt. And now that the engine's connected to this 2-ton thing that literally just tests the tensile strength of everything that you forgot to disconnect, we can take it out. Actually, I want to disconnect one more thing. I gotta move this oil filter housing thing. It appears I have not given myself adequate room to get this engine out because the stand that's sitting over there and then this isn't quite out. But the Harley was behind the car to be fair. The only concerning thing I've found so far is I don't know if these shavings on the floor right here were pre or post this oil getting on the floor from where the filter is right here. So do we cut open that filter, or I think we have to cut open that filter to be honest. That's kind of that's concerning, all those like metal shavings, and I don't know if that was prior to the oil. It has to be prior, or else that back part right there would be full of shavings too. That's plastic. Oh, that's from Tokyo's car. This is from when I cut the fender on Tokyo's car. I was concerned for a minute, except like I wouldn't be surprised because we ran this at oil pressure once before. I am so good at getting the floor all full of oil when I take anything apart. And I don't know how some of you guys do it, because I watch some people and like they have this nice cool like floor, it's all like laminated, and then when they pull an engine out, there's not a drop of oil anywhere. And I'm like, bro, there was fluids for that whole thing. How did you even, it doesn't even make sense. Anyways, here's what we're left with. Here's our engine diaper that's, is that an old spark plug? That indeed is an old spark plug. Engine diaper that's just like all oil soaked now, so we're gonna have to try and get the oil out of this thing. It's starting to look like a better engine bay in here. There's a couple things I don't like about this engine bay. One being the frame rail is notched here, but that's where the old turbo was. Another thing is I don't really like how the air to water is inside the car, but I mean, we'll deal with that for this season, I guess. That's probably full of oil actually inside there. And that's gonna be less than performance, because oil actually reduces the octane in your fuel and helps it detonate. Let's get this apart. We're just gonna, you know, wrap this around the leg here and put this on here. And you know, we really can't be friends if you ain't done some sketchy shit in your life. We just can't relate, bro. And that's how you do it. Some things to take note here. This orange stupid transmission was built by James Hatfield. That one was built by James Hatfield. And the one in Tokyo's car, all built by James Hatfield. They're all running very similar setups on the inside. I believe they're all like 34 element sprags in them. And we got them built all the same just so like all the cars are universal. And that's because on this channel, originality isn't really a huge thing. The biggest thing is being able to go as fast as we can on the most budget that we can. And you'll see that we've done a lot of LS TH400 swaps. This car, Virginia's car, Tokyo's car, all LS Turbo 400 swaps, all running similar setups. That way, like, if one thing breaks on one car and we need it for another car, we're more than willing just to pull it out of one or another, or eventually we'll just have one on the stand where we have an extra Turbo 400 and extra LS just sitting there in case one of these three cars messes up. As much as I would love to do like a Coyote swap, and I do plan on doing a Coyote swap eventually, it's just 3 times the price of an LS currently. Once the market starts going down in those, or the market goes up too high in the LS, maybe we'll move into something like that. But for now, our tried and true is working really good. And the main difference with this transmission than the other ones is actually this SFI bell housing. And we got this because we cracked the ear on the old housing when we cracked the block over here when we hit the wall. So we had to weld the block up right here, and then we just changed the housing on this, and it was all good. I literally just bought buckets we can put this on. This is a struggle bus working in the tight quarters like this, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Now that we have the transmission sitting on a bucket, we're actually gonna wanna center the leveler here too. So when we let go of the transmission, it doesn't tip in a weird way. This is what our mid plate is. It's just like an 1/8 inch steel plate that helps support like the middle of it. Okay, let's get Kitty litter happy now. As many of you guys know, we do run an external oil filter with this pan. And that's the main reason why we lost oil pressure at the track the one day. We actually tried to feed the oil filter backwards. I had these two lines mixed up. And ultimately, we ended up with like 9 pounds oil pressure, then like 8, then like 7, then 0. So we switched the lines around, put a new filter on it, and it ended up working. But there might be some damage on the inside of this thing. Like drain the oil out of this thing too while we're here. How far is it gonna shoot? Oh, it was a dangerous game to play, Kyle. Oh, that oil looks so bad. It's full of fuel too. I'm so bad at making a mess. I mean, I'm so good at making a mess. It's a bad thing though. Oh no, now the oil's changing directions. I'm positive there's nobody in the world who pulls an engine and doesn't make a mess. I've made a disaster of it. That's why I have to move over here. And now I gotta try and take this torque converter off, because we need it still. I'm not sponsored by Hughes, but it was a really good torque converter, so. Okay, we're gonna be like 20 minutes pulling these off because these bolts don't want to come out super easy. My leg's going to sleep! Oh. Yes, we did it. We're free. You want to talk about rotating mass? Get a torque converter. Now that it's out, let me talk about our Lord and Savior here for a quick second. Boost. Thank you for providing us with dual ball bearing turbos, billet compressor wheels, V-band back housings. Just kidding! Don't get mad. But for people who've never watched the build series here on this engine, let me give you a little bit rundown on what we have here. This did make 1,043 wheel horsepower on the dyno through an automatic transmission. In the bottom is all Gen 4 stuff. It's stock crank, stock block,
stock pistons, stock rods. It has ARP rod bolts in it, but that's because ARP rod bolts are just as cheap as factory ones. I did splurge on super damper down here. That's my biggest splurge. But we did rev it out to 7,700 RPM. I did relocate our coils here. Also in the bottom, it has a stock oil pump that's been shimmed. So the oil pump that came with the motor, it wasn't even a brand new one. It was the one that came with the motor, and I just shimmed it. So that's like a 180,000 mile oil pump. Yep, not a good idea, Kyle. Wouldn't do that again. Would not recommend again. Then higher up here in the camshaft area, we have a Brian Tooley Stage 3 turbo cam, which I learned is not aggressive as the Stage 3 twin turbo cam, which that car is getting. Hear that, Gina? Your camshaft is actually more aggressive than this one and more aggressive than Tokyo's. So your car's gonna be like blah, 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 blah. Exactly like that. And then on top of that, I believe these are $7.99 heads. I don't remember where you check, but $7.99s, which is the same casting as these ones over here. These ones are $7.99s, and these ones are 243s, which are literally the exact same casting with just different numbers. Going with ARP head bolts. It doesn't even have head studs in it, it's just bolts. LS9 head gaskets, BTR dual springs, the BTR push rods, LS7 lifters, and a trunnion kit, and that's about it. That's all you need to make 1,000 horsepower in an LS. And that's one of the huge reasons why we went LS, because we didn't have to change any of the stock bottom end components, and we got that block for $1,000. So for $1,000, the short block was good for 1,000 horsepower. We had to add a camshaft, push rods, lifters, springs. Actually, now that you get into it, after adding all that stuff, you might be able to get yourself into a Coyote, like fairly to the same price. But you have to change the oil pump gears and the sprockets on a Coyote in order to maximize it. And then the tuning, you know what? I'm still saying that the Coyote is probably about double the price of an LS for the engine wise, and then the rest of the components are probably the same price. We gotta get this area cleaned up now because my garage be looking like it's flooded out like Evan Shanks, but it's not. We have a couple of these stands. This is just like a motor stand. It's gonna lay flat on the floor. It's also the same stand as this, just not on wheels. It's a cheap little thing. These are like 90 bucks at Princess Auto, and you can rock them hard. We just gotta pull off our super sick ultra custom coil mounts now, which are actually just old engine mounts that I drilled and tapped to accept these things. This was like a super last minute idea because we were going racing pretty soon. You know what, there's probably 5 pounds on the nose that probably didn't need to be there, to be honest. Now we can put this thing on real quick. Actually, oh yeah, it looks like our weld might have started to crack just a slight bit over here. All the bolts are just up here. I still can't believe we're pulling this motor out. Oh, I thought I was gonna run this one all season too. There you go, boys. Now it's off to be shipped to Texas Speed because we can't afford that. I'm just kidding. It'd be cool to have like a 427, but you know, not gonna happen. Oh boy, my favorite part. Look at all the kitty litter on the floor. The only problem with not having the engine in the car now is that the engine is like outside of the car, which means we have less square feet of working space outside the car. Oh, I better get to cleaning now. It definitely needs another once over, but we can go ahead and pull this out of the wall now because this is our old turbo kit. All right, I'm glad we got that transmission out. We can get that down to James. My turbo at True North Turbos right here is done. It just needs to be powder coated the cover. My engine, we're just waiting on a couple little goodies left. So next time we're out here, we might be working on V's car to get that rear end back in her car. Or if the Dingley ball home comes from Summit, we'll start building her engine. I have to spend some time cleaning up these headers and stuff and the crossover pipe. You know what? It's the end of the video, and I know you guys are all like suckers for some Kyle content, but this was, you know, mediocre. You know, my whole life I've been mediocre, maybe even a little bit less than mediocre, but you know, whatever. I'm glad you guys came to join me. Peace easy, and get that V.